Hi, my name is Leah Carter, and I never imagined that coming home from a business trip would turn into the moment my entire life was dumped into garbage bags at the gate. The people who should have had my back, my own family chose money over me, leaving me humiliated in front of the whole neighborhood. But what they didn't know was that betrayal doesn't end a story, it sparks a fight for justice. If this kind of story resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling the stories that matter. Let's begin. I thought I was coming home to share good news, but instead, I found my life stuffed into garbage bags at the gate. The April sun burned against my skin as the rideshare pulled away, leaving me alone in front of the house I had called home for 25 years. The black plastic bulged like grotesque monuments lined neatly along the gate as though someone had scheduled a pickup for the entirety of my existence. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. Mr. Dorsey, the retiree across the street, stood in his yard with his phone raised recording. Shame shot through me, hotter than the sunlight. Only 2 days earlier, at dinner before my flight, my mother's words had sliced through my excitement. "When you return, we'll discuss some changes." She had said it casually, as though she were commenting on the weather. I had laughed nervously, hoping she meant new curtains or a garden project. Now the changes stood in front of me, my possessions shoved into sacks, my family lined up like a firing squad. My mother, Margaret, crossed her arms. Jackson. My older brother stood tall at her side in his weekend scrubs. Natalie, pristine in business, casual, even on Saturday, held her phone like she had a courtroom appointment. Kevin wore his college sweatshirt, hands shoved in pockets, eyes a little less steady but fixed in solidarity with the others. None of them smiled. None of them moved toward me. "What is this?" My voice cracked. I dragged my suitcase closer, refusing to let them see my knees tremble. "Why are my things outside?" Margaret's reply came sharp, each syllable like a gavel. "It's time you moved out. You're 25. All your siblings had their own places before 23. I blinked, disbelief choking me. I just got back from New York. We signed a 7-figure contract because of my pitch. Do you understand what that means? A promotion? A real step forward." Natalie lifted an eyebrow. "And yet you still live here." Kevin nodded, though his jaw tightened. "We all found apartments right after graduation. Responsibility doesn't wait for convenience." Their words blurred with the buzzing in my ears. Jackson added coldly, "You should have planned better. You can't stay here forever." Across the street, Mr. Dorsey adjusted his phone for a better angle. The shame of being displayed, not just rejected, boiled inside me. My triumph in New York had barely lasted a day before turning to humiliation on my own driveway. "You packed my room while I was gone?" My throat scraped. Margaret didn't flinch. "It's already cleared. You don't live here anymore." Her words hit harder than any slap. The house behind them looked unchanged. The blue siding, the neat flower beds, but my place inside it had been erased as though I had never belonged. I scanned their faces, desperate for warmth, an explanation, something. There was nothing. Just cold consensus. The garbage bags gleamed in the sunlight, each one a reminder that I was disposable. My suitcase handle shook in my grip. I whispered, half to myself, half to the ghosts of the childhood I had just lost. What is this really about? My success meant nothing to them. Money was the only thing that mattered. The words rang in my skull as I watched the silk scarf I had bought for my mother slip from one of the trash bags, landing in the dirt. I had carried it all the way from New York, imagining her smile when she unwrapped it. Instead, the fabric lay trampled underfoot, a discarded emblem of every foolish hope I had still held. The sunset painted the driveway in copper light, stretching the shadows of my family across the lawn like a tribunal. Margaret stood at the center, her posture, rigid eyes cold. Jackson and Natalie flanked her, their stares sharp, their presence deliberate. Kevin lingered just behind them, arms crossed but his gaze uneasy, as though he wished to be anywhere else. I clutched the scarf to my chest, my throat dry. "Why now?" My voice cracked. "Why do this today? Why not at least warn me?" Kevin shifted his weight, words slipping before he could catch them. Because Mom already signed the contract, Natalie's head snapped toward him, fury flashing. Kevin stopped talking. but the damage was done. The word contract hung in the air, poisonous and undeniable. My pulse raced as I turned back to my mother. "You signed what contract?" Jackson's voice was calm, calculated the tone of someone who believed himself the voice of reason. "The house is sold. The buyers want it now. We've all made plans based on that money." He lifted his chin eyes hard. "I've already put down $50,000 on a vacation home. That isn't refundable." Natalie's lips curved into something between a smirk and a sneer. "And I signed for a $30,000 kitchen renovation. The funds were promised. We can't back out because you're clinging to old habits." I stared at them, feeling my chest hollow. "So this isn't about me overstaying. It's about cash. You've thrown me out so you can get your payday." Margaret finally spoke her words a hammer. "You've been a burden for years. Paying scraps of rent doesn't entitle you to more. Your share will be reduced. That is final." Heat surged through me, a roaring tide I could no longer contain. "Reduced?" My voice echoed across the street. "I carried my weight here. I paid the bills you ignored. I kept this house running while you called me a disappointment. Don't you dare twist this into responsibility." Natalie's expression sharpened. "It's called growing up, Leah. Something you've refused to do." "This isn't responsibility." I shouted, anger breaking every restraint. "This is greed." The words rang out, startling even Kevin, who looked away. Shame creeping into his features. For the first time, cracks showed in their perfect wall of unity. Jackson's jaw tightened. Natalie scoffed, but her fingers gripped her phone too hard. Margaret, the judge presiding over my sentencing, gave nothing, no emotion, no hint of weakness. I couldn't stand in silence anymore. My hand dove into my bag fingers, closing around my phone. With one swipe, I opened my email. On the glowing screen sat the document I had been holding onto the scanned will from Lawyer Reynolds, the one my siblings prayed I had forgotten. Leah got her phone, opened the email scan from Lawyer Reynolds. They thought I would quietly walk away. Instead, I reminded them of one thing: they could never erase Dad's will. The words slipped from my mouth like a blade unsheathed, and in that instant I saw the ripple of unease pass across their faces. The phone in my hand glowed with the scanned document I had kept tucked away, a safeguard I never thought I would need, but now clung to like armor. My memory snapped back to 2006, the funeral when I was just 7. The air thick with lilies, black coats, and the weight of loss. I remembered sitting small in the front row as Attorney Reynolds read the clause that had burned into my childhood. "The house shall remain the shared inheritance of all 4 children." Those words had been meant as protection, a tether to keep us bound even after Dad was gone. Now they were my lifeline. I lifted my phone high enough for them to see the text, my voice steady despite the storm rising inside me. Dad made it clear. "This house belongs to all of us. You can't just erase me from that." Silence. Even Margaret's iron mask faltered for half a second. Jackson's brows knitted in irritation. Natalie's lips curled into a razor-thin smile. "So what?" Now she sneered. "You'll drag your own mother into court? You'll sue her in front of strangers?" Her tone dripped with scorn, as though I had already become a villain in her rehearsed narrative. I met her gaze without blinking. "You stripped me of my home. You erased my place in this family. Tell me, Natalie, who made the first move to betray blood?" Kevin's face turned pale. His eyes darted from me to Margaret, then to Jackson, as if realizing he had been complicit in something rotten. His arms dropped to his sides, no longer folded in smug judgment, but limp, uncertain. For once, he didn't look like one of them. He looked like someone cornered by truth. And then came the voice from across the street. Mr. Dorsey, clutching his camcorder like it was the Holy Grail, called out, "I've got it all on tape. Every word, every threat. The whole neighborhood will see what kind of family you are." Laughter bubbled bitter in my throat. The humiliation I had been drowning in only moments earlier now swung back like a pendulum. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had done it publicly with witnesses with a record. The very image of power they clung to was crumbling under a neighbor's shaky but undeniable footage. I drew a breath, feeling something shift in my chest, something sharper than grief and hotter than shame. It was resolve. "You want me gone?" I asked quietly. Steady, "Fine. I'll leave. But make no mistake, I'm not leaving broken. I'm leaving on my terms. I bent, picked up the first garbage bag, and flung it into the trunk of my hatchback. One by one, I stacked them, each thud against the metal echoing louder than the silence behind me. I didn't bow my head. I didn't plead. I lifted my chin, meeting their eyes one last time, and let my voice slice through the dusk. Goodbye. I hope the money is worth it. The words hung there, final, undeniable, as the wind picked up and dark clouds rolled across the Chicago sky. A storm was coming, not just in the heavens, but in the lives of everyone who had just cast me out. I slid into the driver's seat, hands trembling, only now that I was hidden behind the windshield. As the engine turned over, my phone buzzed violently against the console. Zoe's name flashed across the screen. I swiped to answer her voice, urgent, warm, immediate. Come stay with us, Leah. Don't face this alone. We'll figure it out together. They thought that throwing me out would break me. Instead, it forced me to build from the ground up. The words looped inside my head as I hauled the last battered cardboard box into my new studio apartment. The place smelled faintly of paint and damp wood, its cracked plaster walls bearing the history of tenants who had come and gone before me. The radiator clanked like an old man's knees, and traffic noise bled through the thin windows, a constant reminder that this neighborhood never slept. It was a far cry from the suburban house I had called home for 25 years, but for the first time, every inch belonged to me. Zoe and Tyler were the first to step inside after me, balancing mismatched donations from friends, a secondhand futon, a chipped coffee table, a box of half-used kitchenware. We stacked them clumsily against the walls, laughing at the absurdity of piecing together a life from scraps. When Zoe placed a faded map of Chicago on the wall, a relic from her college dorm, I felt a strange rush of ownership. It was ugly yellowed, curled at the edges. But it was mine. That night, I lay awake on the futon, staring at the peeling ceiling, Dad's words echoing through memory. All 4 children deserve equal footing. If they would not honor equality, then I would craft it myself, brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck, until my footing was stronger than theirs. The first therapy session with Dr. Patel came days later in a small office lined with gentle books and softer lighting. I had resisted the idea, telling myself I could push through on my own, but Zoe's persistence finally broke me down. Dr. Patel's calm gaze was disarming. Being discarded isn't discipline, she said after hearing my story, her voice firm yet compassionate. It isn't tough love. It's abuse dressed as authority. And the fact that you feel guilt about leaving shows how deep their conditioning runs. Her words cracked something open inside me. For years, I had mistaken control for care. Now, for the first time, someone told me it wasn't love at all. I poured myself into work. 12-hour days became the norm as I buried hurt beneath spreadsheets, campaigns, and endless client calls. The chaos of the marketing office in downtown Chicago was strangely soothing compared to the chaos of my family. There, my effort had weight. There, my words mattered. It was during one late evening project that I first truly noticed Daniel. He was leaning over my desk, pointing at a layout on my screen. Your copy sings, he murmured, adjusting the font sizes, but the spacing chokes it. Let it breathe. His fingers hovered just above the keys, guiding but never imposing. When he left, he slid a sticky note onto my desk. Clean design like clean words both stick longer. A small gesture, but it struck deeper than I expected. For once, collaboration didn't feel like criticism. It felt like partnership. 2 weeks later, my inbox pinged with a message that made me stop breathing. Leah, we're officially promoting you to head of digital marketing, effective June 15th. Congratulations. Your dedication is unmatched. I reread the email 3 times, fingers trembling against the mouse. From trash bags at the curb to a leadership title, in less than 2 months, life had rewritten its own cruel irony. I didn't cry. I smiled. A thin, dangerous smile that tasted of vindication. Later that evening, in the dim light of my studio, I opened Facebook on reflex. The top of my feed froze me cold, a video thumbnail of me standing in front of garbage bags my family line like executioners behind me. Mr. Dorsey's shaky footage uploaded to the neighborhood group had been shared hundreds of times. I clicked play with a knot in my stomach. The comments scrolled faster than I could read. I can't believe a mother would do this. Those siblings looked like vultures. Stay strong, girl, you deserve better. For the first time since that night, the shame I'd carried felt lighter. The story was no longer mine alone. The humiliation that had burned me alive in front of the gate was now being reframed by strangers into sympathy, even outrage. My exile had become their scandal. And with every notification ping, I realized something profound. They had tried to erase me publicly, but now the public was bearing witness for me, not against me. 6 months after they cut me off, my phone exploded with 60 desperate messages from my mother. Each notification flashed across the screen like a ghost, filling my inbox with please typed in frantic bursts. Call me back. Please, Leah, I need you. It's urgent. I'm sorry. Please don't ignore me. The woman who had stood like a judge before me in April was now reduced to fragments of apology and fear. For a long moment, I only stared, the coldness of October seeping in through the window rain, streaking the glass like tears I refused to shed. The call that followed wasn't hers. It was Kevin's. His voice carried none of the arrogance I remembered. Leah, he said quietly. Mom lost everything. The scam wiped her out. The money from the house, her savings, it's gone. She has nowhere else to go. I felt my stomach not with pity, but with the bitter irony of it. We'll discuss changes when you get back. She had said those words like a sentence months ago. Now she was the one forced to face change. I agreed to meet her at a cafe near the motel where she had been staying. Rain drummed steadily on the awning as I stepped inside, the air heavy with the smell of burnt espresso and damp coats. Daniel had offered to come in with me, but I asked him to wait outside just in case. I needed to face her alone. Margaret was almost unrecognizable. Her hair, once perfectly coiffed, clung in limp strands around her face. Her hands shook as she lifted her cup-chipped nails, tapping against the porcelain. Gone was the rigid judge who had presided over my humiliation. In her place sat a woman stripped of authority, hollowed by loss. I can't stay in that motel, she whispered, her voice rasping. It's filthy. Unsafe. You have an apartment now? Let me come live with you. The request landed with the weight of a gavel. I took a deep breath, steadying the fire that threatened to flare. No, I said. That isn't happening. Her eyes snapped up sharp for the first time all evening. No. After everything I did for you, you'd leave me on the street. My chair scraped against the floor as I leaned closer, voice low but unyielding. You didn't do this for me. You did this to me. If you want my help now, it comes with conditions. I laid them out, each word like a brick, sealing the boundary she had shattered long ago. 1. We do not live together. 2. I'll contribute $400 a month for 6 months, no more. 3. You attend therapy mandatory. No excuses. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Anger flickered across her face, a pale echo of the authority she once wielded. That's your idea of help, she hissed. I stood, shoulders squared, voice calm but sharp as glass. That's the only way I won't lose myself again. You don't set the terms anymore. I do. She flinched as if the words struck harder than any shout. For a moment, neither of us moved, the rain outside pounding like an unending verdict. Finally, I picked up my coat and turned away, leaving her trembling behind the table. As I stepped out into the night, Kevin lingered under the awning, his hands shoved into his pockets. He looked at me with eyes heavier than the storm overhead. His voice was almost a whisper, ragged with guilt. I should have stood up for you that day. The admission hung in the rain, fragile but real. I didn't answer. I only walked past him, each step firm, the sound of my boots on wet pavement, a declaration that the power had shifted forever. The same hands that once carried garbage bags now held the keys to my own front door. Spring sunlight poured through the wide windows of my new apartment, bouncing off fresh paint and polished wood. The place smelled of citrus cleaner and new beginnings. My friends filled the space with laughter and music, balancing paper plates of snacks and plastic cups of champagne. This was mine, every inch, every echo, every memory yet to be made. On the coffee table sat the small pile of gifts Zoe and Tyler had brought, a potted plant, a set of mismatched mugs, and a frame already holding a photo of us. 3 arms tangled, smiling despite everything. Zoe clinked her glass and raised it high. From garbage bags to keys, cheers to Leah. The group erupted in applause, and I let myself breathe it in the sound of belonging that had nothing to do with blood. Daniel stood at my side, his hand brushing mine briefly before pulling away, respectful, even in closeness. We had taken slow steps into something real, something steady. His presence didn't dominate. It anchored. In the chaos of voices and celebration, I found him steadying me with just a glance. Kevin shifted near the back of the room. Shoulders, hunched eyes lowered. When the laughter subsided, he cleared his throat. The sound cut through the party. I need to say something. He began, voice uneven. Everyone turned. Leah, I was wrong. That day at the house, I should have defended you. I didn't. And I'm sorry. Silence wrapped the room. His words, raw and unpolished, carried more weight than the polished excuses I had grown used to from the others. I studied him carefully. The shame in his eyes was real. Redemption didn't erase the past, but it carved a small space for forgiveness, at least for him. I nodded once, accepting, not excusing, but acknowledging. The conversations shifted again, lighter now, friends retelling the story of how humiliation had been turned on its head. They spoke of strength, resilience, the viral clip that strangers still shared, the girl with garbage bags who refused to bow. Their voices reframed my pain into a narrative of survival, turning scars into symbols. My phone buzzed on the counter. One new message from Margaret, I'm proud of you. The words glowed cold on the screen, a fragile attempt at connection from someone who had broken it beyond repair. I smiled faintly, placed the phone face down, and chose silence as my answer. The night stretched on laughter, spilling out onto the balcony. I stepped outside the city, unfolding beneath me a grid of light and possibility. The wind lifted my hair as I wrapped my fingers around the new keys, their edges biting gently into my palm. I had carried garbage bags once heavy with the weight of betrayal. Now I carried only this, the proof of my own independence, the symbol of boundaries forged from fire. I whispered into the night, soft but certain, this time I belong on my own terms. I walked away from the past, carrying nothing but scars and determination, and now I stand in a place built by my own strength. What was meant to destroy me became the very fuel that taught me how to rise higher than their betrayal. Justice doesn't arrive easily, but once it does, it changes everything. And if my journey proves anything, it's this: when you stop letting others define your worth, you'll never again bow to their injustice.